All right, guys. Today's our third lesson. You've learned some basics with the first lesson, and then you've learned the algorithm of lifting inner limitations um, with the second lesson, and it should give you some understanding on how you can work with balancing your emotions, working on any issues that you might have in your daily life. It also gave you an understanding of how the algorithm works, how you should draw lines, how you should cross them, the coloring methodology, how you do fixation at the end, right? If something really speaks to you in a drawing. And also you learned about the field lines that actually charge the whole drawing with the high voltage in order to bring the results of your drawing to the universe and kind of blend it with the universal flow. So that's what we did last time. And today we're going to deepen a little bit our knowledge. We're going to try 2 additional algorithms. They also algorithms of lifting inner limitations. It's just they have some specifics, and you should be using them for different purposes that I'm going to talk about. So first of all, let's just, hi Della, I can see you. I'm going to be switching to my drawing board so we can start conversation and drawing together and kind of getting more understanding. What are we doing, right? I know I mentioned about certain pages on the presentation that we would still need to go back to those pages, but I don't think we have enough drawings in order for us to go back to presentation and kind of talk about the principles of Neurographica and some other more advanced stuff that we need to cover. So I suggest let's just move on with drawings. Let's get some more homeworks down so you have more experience with drawing. Right now I only see several people drawing, not too many. So I guess after this class, definitely we will go back to the presentation and talk about principles and so forth. Again, what I prefer to do is to deepen our knowledge step by step, so we're not getting lost in this whole world of Neurographica. And believe me, it's huge. Whatever we're doing right now is just the tip of the iceberg. The Neurographica itself is mostly about modeling, mostly about planning your life, achieving your goals, working through relationships and so forth. But with the tip of this iceberg, first of all, we need to get rounded, right? We need to round our emotions. We need to find a way to deal with turmoils of our lives with this simple method, right? All right, guys, so let me just switch to the drawing board for 1 second. I'm going to disappear and reappear. My board is going to reappear. All right. Let me do that. All right. Okay. Excellent. You know, it's so exciting. Every time I'm ready to draw, it's just my heart. I don't know. I guess not everyone feels like that, but for me, because I've done it for such a long time, I feel so much excitement. Doesn't matter if I'm teaching or I'm drawing just for myself. I have this feeling of excitement that I'm going to do something very important for myself and for my students. This knowledge is sacred, really sacred knowledge that it's just, I don't know, Pavel Piskarev probably channeled it from higher forces. That's how I feel, because otherwise it's unexplainable in many ways. How does it happen that all of a sudden be changing our thinking patterns? How all of a sudden we don't feel so stressed? We don't have so much reactions. We're more proactive than reactive and so forth. And again, I just want to deepen a little bit the conversation that we had last time when we talked about our relationship with coffee and tea. If you remember, we talked about how to change a habit, right, from one to another. But people asking me, I still don't understand how it works, right? And I just want to kind of, again, draw a neurographic line. So when we draw a neurographic line, And that's what I'm doing right now. And usually we need to do it very slow. We're not really rushing the process. A lot of people are rushing process. You know what I see? Some people, and again, this is something that we need to pay attention immediately. You know how people draw lines? Sounds familiar? I know all, not all, but when my students just start learning, they're rushing. They just want to finish it quickly. Why? Because we're so used to rushing. We're rushing to get to work. We're rushing to complete our project. It's just rushing, rushing, rushing. And we don't have enough time to slow down, get into the meditative flow in order to draw the line the way it should be drawn. And it's all about the rhythm here. It's like na 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 na. We have a Russian song named Zuliko. And this rhythm of the slow movement, meditative movement, where you don't create any patterns, already puts you in touch with your neurons. Believe it or not, mind-body connection, that's what happens here. You drawing the line, that's crossing another line, somewhere on its way. What do you think you're doing here? You are creating a pattern. Right now, it's not a pattern. It's just one line crossing another line, right? But when you do your rounding, and we already know how to do the rounding, right? Then we create the whole concept. The whole new concept is created. And if you name your lines, you may even get some results here. Let's say this line about house. Let's say you want to buy a new house. And this one is about money. I need money to purchase a house. You connected these two subjects together, house and money, keeping in mind, oh, I need money to buy a new house. When you rounded these two subjects together, guess what you've got? You've got new neuron connection that actually will bring you, if you do it every day, I need money, I need money, I need money. And you may think about how you're going to get money. Maybe you want an investor, or maybe you want to borrow from your parents and you're a little bit scared to ask. Doesn't matter. You have an idea where you're going to get money. When we connect certain understandings or certain subject matter or objects together, we're creating connection between those elements, right? And here I can add another one. Oh, I want a new house because I want to have a baby, right? I can't bring my baby in the apartment where I currently live, for example, right? Guess what? You're already creating a story for yourself, right? And what else you could do here? Oh, I want to buy my house. And look, it doesn't matter even where you're going to draw your line. As long as it crosses the other ones. And you could say, oh, I want to buy a house in a good neighborhood, right? Look what happens here again. You round it and you're getting it. Doesn't mean that you're going to get immediately money for your house, and doesn't mean that you're going to have a baby immediately, right? But you're building up towards what you really want in life. You know, some people who don't have time and they like, oh, I'm not into drawing, I'm a too busy person. What they do, they just create it. And we're going to be doing this. We're going to be doing it towards the end of our course, where people just draw a bunch of lines. They name them, right? They also connect them with circles. They connect them with other figures. They create those crossings, right? And that's how they program the universe to commit to their realities. Instead of asking universe, give it to me, you're basically programming the universe to give it to you, right? And another opinion I've heard from one lady, she's saying, it sounds like you really pushing universe to give you what you want, but maybe universe has some other plans for you. Well, we could look at this way, but let's think about lots of practices that we do, and people using psychologists, right, when they have problems, and people using some coaches, and they going to trainers for what? To improve their lives, right? I don't know what universe have for anyone, but if the person has some critical disease, what do? They go to doctors, and nobody could blame them for that. You could not say, oh, maybe universe had something in mind for you. You don't go to a doctor. You see, that's my psychology here. We're communicating with the universe. And when we're doing this, our subconscious mind really creates our reality. And we assume that everything what we're getting in life is the reflection of our neural connections. Then we know if we reprogram the way we think, then the universe is going to respond and reflect back what we want. That's how it works. Isn't that amazing? I find it totally amazing. And there is no magical about it. It's all proven by science, totally. So just keep in mind, let's say when you don't have enough time, right? When you're rushing somewhere, you on a train or anything, and you need to do, let's say you're going to the meeting, you need to conduct a meeting. All you need to do is like my meeting, right? This is my meeting. I'm just giving you a quick shortcuts to certain things when you need to do something very fast. And we're going to be doing some speed method today as well in algorithm of lifting inner limitations. My meeting, my day is going to be perfect. Perfect day line goes here. Look, right there. Meeting, perfect day. My clients, I'm just giving you some examples from my personal life. My client's going to be pleasant, nice, and the meeting is going to go smooth. And then maybe I want to connect everything with the circle, and I can use my neurographic line to go over the circle. I don't have to draw a perfect circle, but I have to try to bring it to the circle shape. So everything is rounded and nice. And guess what I need to do here? Just round. And you could name this picture, this drawing, my perfect meeting. You see how simple it is? And if you're carrying a couple of pencils, colored pencils, you just color it. Picture perfect. That's how sometimes people do when they don't have time. Let's say they have 20 minutes or like 10 minutes before something important. Here you go. You're sitting. What I liked about Kevin's Neurotrack, I don't know if you guys read his Neurotrack. I find it amusing and amazing for me because he gives so many details, which I totally love. And I really, really encourage you to do the same level of details because it gives me a full understanding of what goes on. He was sitting at the doctor's office, and look, he didn't waste his time. He actually drew, and his drawings are really, really good. So just giving you some hints about it. I'm going to be giving more classes right now. I'm working on putting together my classes in English, working with neuromandalas. It is a wonderful way of dealing a relationship with others and ourselves. And there will be another class about the goals and results that I'm putting together in English. So you will see it really works like a charm. And Deli is here with us. Deli is a proven person who actually took my class in Russian language. And she had amazing results with the goal and results class. So, all right, so that's what I wanted to mention today, that we're not doing any black magic like some people think. It's not a black magic, it's a white magic where we are programming ourselves for success. And we're saying that we can be successful only when we're working on ourselves. And this is the perfect method for working on yourself. It's a meditative method, mind-body connection. You're encoding, you're programming your reality in the way you want it to be. That's why I love Neurographica. And to be honest with you, the more I study, the more I get. It never gets boring. Always learn something else. And it's just never-ending method. I just can't even see how someone can get bored doing that. All right, so today we're going to continue. We're going to be exploring the next algorithm for removing inner limitations. And this algorithm is really good when you have a complex issue. Let's say you're working on a project and you have people who are reporting to you, or you have people you depend on, and then you see one team had failed to show up at the meeting. Another person who was supposed to bring some supplies didn't show up. The project doesn't go where it's supposed to go. Or let's say you are building the house, and you have a contractor, and you also have real estate agent from whom you're buying a piece of land, right? And you have some other parties that is involved, and they will be doing some interior design for you. And then everything seems like falling apart, like the whole project. And you're like, oh my God, I don't really even know what to do. Yes, you can do algorithm for lifting inner limitations, the way we learned that last time. But you can also do something that will help you out to put all the components together of the issue. And let me just take one. When we're teaching, we always take the real examples from our lives. And let me just think about one of them was in my class in Brooklyn that I planned to do. And then it turned out that a lady who was supposed to work on space, she disappeared. And people started kind of texting me and asking me when the class is and what I'm going to do about space, and very, very hectic. So just think about something, maybe even in the family. Your family is, they're not talking to each other. Let's say your mother-in-law doesn't speak to your mother, and you're in the middle of this, and then your husband gets frustrated. So something that includes a lot of components, or people, or some activities. So what you could do, again, you should think about the high point of the conflict, or the high point of your frustration, then things didn't work out. And then you do exactly the same catharsis like you did in the first lesson. And you could repeat after me, just remember how you did it, right? Let's not do like a small like this, right? Some people, I see that people still doing it for me, and I'm like, guys, come on, we really want to work on our issues. With catharsis like this, what is this? It looks like a dot, right? We really need good catharsis like that. That's it. This is catharsis. And you know, sometimes our markers, they fail. So in this case, I would just go over, right? Because we are so emotional and we need to have our catharsis looking emotional. Then we just need to make it more visible for ourselves, most of all, right? It's not like you don't see it, but just to make it more visible, more more standing out on the paper, so you could really work on this, right? So just like that. And here I'm doing the same thing. And I think, Sancho, you had this question, right? What do I do if my catharsis is not as visible as I want? That's what you do. You could do that. Or what else could you do here? You can just take your neurographic line and just a little bit go over like that. You see that? You just go over your neurographic line. Just don't make huge curves. They have to be small, right? See, it became immediately fluid. And I see that Pavel also does it lately. He creates a line, and then he likes to draw a neurographic line on top of this. So you can do that. That's fine. It's totally okay. But, you know, sometimes I like doing it. Sometimes I like to just kind of like darken it up by going over my original catharsis. So I've got that. That's it. So I've done that. So now let's think about, here's our catharsis. Yes. Is it strong enough? Yes, it is. How do we know the catharsis is strong enough? We have a lot of angles here, triangles. Right? If we have catharsis looking like, let me take another paper to show you. If your catharsis looks like that, you see what I'm doing? What it means, it's not as strong as we would like it to see on the paper. That means that your emotional, let me just show you in another one because I don't think it's visible enough. You know, some people do catharsis like this. This is not catharsis. It's not. Why? Because it doesn't have that emotional charge. It's just like, oh, no, 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 you know, like this is doodling, not catharsis. Catharsis assumes that you're going to be doing like this, something like that, where you can really emotionally throw these lines on the paper, right? And then you're getting this. You're getting this. So now we are talking about the components of the issue, right? We said that if it's a complex issue and we need to resolve it, what we start doing it, instead of going to rounding part, to the second step of the algorithm, what we're going to be doing, we're going to be jumping to step number 4 and start looking at the catharsis and find figures within this catharsis that your mind just picks like, okay, what really talks to me here? You know, there is a process psychology created by Arnold Mindell. I don't know if you heard about him. If you didn't, I would totally recommend you watching his video on YouTube, Arnold Mindell. I'm going to put his name actually, and maybe a couple of links to his videos. And he's got wonderful books, process-oriented psychology. I'm a big fan. I've been studying him for a couple of years. So he's got that terminology that is very interesting. He calls it flirting. And really from the from flirtation, when you're looking at something and you see that something really brings you attention, he's saying, oh, that something is flirting with you. You know, it is kind of like interesting terminology, but if you think about it, I really like using this terminology because I'm looking at it and I'm like, wait a minute, what is really flirting with me here on this catharsis? And already I see something very interesting. What I'm going to be doing now, I'm going to be thickening. You see what I'm doing? I'm make it really thick. You see that? I'm going to be thickening the part that really, for some reason, flirts with me. I looked at it, I'm like, oh my God, yes, I think this is what I would like to make thicker. It looks like a hammer, actually. And as I said, in Neurographica, we're always working on our own issues. And it did look like a hammer, this situation, because I was counting on this lady. And then she disappeared. And then I didn't know what to do with people who were supposed to come for my class. And I needed to cancel the class. And I felt like she hammered me with that. You see how, you see the relationship between what flirts with us and what feelings it can invoke, what associations it can invoke, how it relates to you immediately. In this case, definitely it relates to you. Like for me, definitely this hammer right away. I see it as a hammer. Maybe somebody would look at this and say, well, I don't see any hammer. I see maybe a bird flying over the sea. Then that would be that person's reflection. But my reflection is, it's a hammer, okay? All right, so what else I see here? I see another figure here that I want to make thicker. You should find like 2-3 figures that you really want to work on. Make it thicker. Here's another one that I found. Again, I don't know why. If you ask me, Margarita, why you selected this two? I don't know, because it flirted with me, that's why. And you should select them in your catharsis. You see that? And I don't know what it is. I don't know yet, but it talks to me. It talks to me. Figure 1, figure 2, and probably I'll select another figure that also represents something that unknown to me at this point. But I'm sure at the end of this work, it will show up what it could be. And right away, this element came, and this, and I just want to make this thicker. And you choose something that really flirts with you. But we have to be careful not to create mess, right? And if something gets thicker, we know it's fine. Okay? So I made it thicker together, and I want to make this element thicker. So that's what I've got. And here I already see a circle. So I'll make it circle because it's surfacing already for me. So I found 3 elements, 1 element, 2nd element, 3rd element. So what I need to do, I need to round them first. And then we're going to start connecting. Instead of rounding the whole thing, I'm only rounding those 3 elements that I found. You could have only 2 elements, which is totally fine, but you should have more than 1. And I guess maximum would be 3, 4 should be good enough. And now I'm rounding these elements with the rest of the catharsis. I'm just rounding it, just like that. Sometimes those elements can cross. Sometimes they're far away. Like this one is standalone. It doesn't cross with anything. But these 2 are crossing. And I don't know yet why. I have no idea. I'm going to learn later. We remember that all the corners of triangles should be circled inside, should be rounded, right? And here as well. So, and that's what I'm doing. And again, we need to watch for rounding 100%. In algorithm of lifting inner limitations, we really aim to round at 100%. So I have 3 elements. Now, what do I need to do next? And I'm going to write the steps when I create the video. I'm going to have steps of this algorithm. For the first one, you already have. The first one is the most common way of dealing with lifting inner limitations, and it's all in presentation that is attached in the file section of our group. But these steps, I'm gonna write them right where I'm gonna post my video. So don't worry, writing or remembering, everything is gonna be there. So I do have 3 elements. So now what I need to do, I need to connect them. I need to connect them with the lines that are close to each other. Like this, I could see that these 2 are the closest lines that I can connect. So you pick the lines that are closest for connection. So don't go connecting like with something else. It has to be like straightforward connection. So now you have 3 elements. Element 1, element 2, element 3. And they're all connected now. Here that was easy because they crossed, right? We know that. It was kind of easy. So what we do next? Now what we're going to do, we really need to dissolve the rest of that. Actually, again, this is your catharsis. The whole thing needs to be dissolved, the whole thing. But what we want to do here, we want to use lines that go from one end to another in order to dissolve it. So you're no longer connecting. Remember how we did first time? We connected all the corners and we connected everything. Here, right away, what we're doing, we're using like a field lines. If you remember, at the end of the last lesson, we've been using those lines at the end. We're going to be still using them at the end, but for different purpose. Here, we need to dissolve this whole thing, just like that. We don't round parts that don't talk to each other. We only rounded parts that are talking to each other, actually. You notice that? Here's that crossing here. We would need to round at the end, but first we want to dissolve everything. So we connected those 3 parts. For our subconscious mind, it means a lot. We don't know, maybe on the conscious level, we have not gotten any idea what it is. Like with this one, I got an idea. It looks like a hammer. I don't know what this one is, but it will tell me later. Or maybe it wouldn't. We will see how it's going to turn out. And this one is look like a weapon or something. I don't know. I'm looking at it. Oh my God, it looks like cannon or something. But again, it's just my first impression. I don't hook on this. I'm not trying to find something that I'm really, really going to establish relationship at this point. Later, when we're going to dissolve, you see what I'm doing? I'm dissolving it. I'm dissolving the whole thing. I'm going across everything. Are you breathing? How are your shoulders doing? Right? you should notice, you know, immediately when we start drawing those field lines, immediately we should feel a kind of like sensation of letting it go, letting it go. It feels so nice to dissolve all these negative feelings and all the components that came with that, and people hammering your mind, and that lady who disappeared. I just want to do it. I want to dissolve this. I don't want to think about it anymore. It's enough. I've got my point of frustration, and I don't want to deal with this anymore. And that's what I'm dissolving. I'm dissolving in a way that helps me to resolve this whole problem. And I'm going through all of these lines, doing that with the filled lines from one point to another. You can always add more lines as you go. And Della, for you specifically, right? It's a different algorithm. It's not the first one, but just with this one, you see how we're going across the whole drawing. Over there, I asked not to, right? With the first one, we actually connected everything first. We added lines all over. Here is like we're doing this kind of movement, this kind of movement, that kind of movement. But later, I'm going to add more lines to that because we need to dissolve this whole thing regardless. Okay, so watch that point. That's the difference between the first lesson and this lesson. Here we actually rounded most important figures for us. And now when we're adding those field lines, we basically dissolving the rest of it. And we're also dissolving the whole catharsis with that. So that's what we're doing here. And let's continue doing it. You're working on something important for you. You know, family relationship, I know for a lot of people is a big challenge because people cannot find consensus. They just can't. And, you know, sometimes it creates a lot of problems. And sometimes like we really need to bring every member of our family and see how they communicate with each other. And that really helps when you have different components here. And you can add lines, right? That's fine. You can add lines here, add lines, that's fine. And start rounding. Start rounding because what we really want to have, we want to have a peace of mind here. All right, you know, it could be frustrating enough to bring all the components of the issue together. And now we don't want to really fixate on these problems. Yes, I see the subjects, that's fine. I understand that they mean something for me. And if it's a hammer or this is something that gets hammered, and even if it's a cannon in my mind, right now it's like I'm going to the war. And, and you know, that's how much frustration I had, right, with this whole situation. But enough, the war is over. It's in the past. I cannot change the past. All I can do is change the future. And that's what I'm working on. I'm working on my future here. You know, my marker is dying, so I'm going to take something very similar and use that. And you just continue rounding everything. So when, and then you're going to start feeling like, when you round, feeling nice about the work that you do here. You are doing something wonderful to yourself. You're saying it's all done, it's all in the past. I no longer want to deal with this. It's all right, and it's over, okay? And I just want to make sure that when I round, this whole catharsis will disappear. And I will do anything on this drawing in order to make it happen. I should not see catharsis, but first I need to round everything. I need to get to the rounded state of mind where everything is back to normal. I don't have to use my energy for the past event. What's beautiful about Neurographica, guys, again, to deepen our knowledge, that it is removing energy from the past. It's basically telling you, fine, it happened. You got angry, fine. You got frustrated. Okay, we are all humans. It's normal to get frustrated sometimes. But The event is in the past. Why to spend energy thinking about it, getting angry again and again? You did your catharsis. All you have to do your homework. You really need to get rounded. And I'm sorry, I have a little difference in color, but my marker just died and I needed to use. But in reality, I should use just one marker. We're not using multicolored markers in any of the algorithms of lifting inner limitations. Always just one marker. We're not doing multiple markers. So, and now we started getting rounded. You know, you can add circles. You see how I'm painting? Look what I'm doing. I'm adding a little circle inside and I'm coloring the corners. How cute. First of all, it creates a cute impression of little circles, right? And little circles, they look like little babies sometimes, you know. They're really cute. They make us smile. And when we see lots of, some people call them bubbles, right? Because they may resemble bubbles. And when we do this work, it's just, see, like I'm laughing over it. Some people telling me, oh, I started to smile. I forgot what I was working on. And I'm like, that's wonderful. That's fantastic. That's what we want. We want to forget what we're working on sometimes, right? And as I said, you can always add circles. Like if you feel like I need to add circle. You see here is like we have half circular shape. What I can do, I can actually create a whole circle out of it. Just like that. And immediately we feel a difference because with circles, we get to the rounded state of mind when everything is perfect, when you don't really even need to think about anything because the circle does the work for you, right? That's why in Neurographica, oftentimes we are just drawing circles and connecting circles with neural lines. And that helps us out to get to a good mood and balance out. That's why we like fireworks, right? When we get to, when there is a holiday, why people like fireworks, not only kids, adults as well. When I was at Niagara Falls last summer, you know, I was just so amazed with amount of people watching the fireworks over there. And because those fireworks, they make us feel good. It's like a multitude of colors. It's just like so much excitement. People forget about everything when they watch fireworks. And we have our own way of doing fireworks in Neurographica. I will be showing you at the last lesson how to do that. But for now, we just need to get rounded and see like I'm making circles, I'm making circles. Circles keep me focusing on the positive attitude. I know that I'm going to be able to resolve. I know I'm going to be able to get back to normal. I know I don't have to fixate on the problem, right? And yes, I've got some very strong images here. Like really, I didn't even expect that I would get such a strong image of certain elements that brought such heavy associations, right? You may have as well. Some people, what's very common that people see some insects, right? They do it and they say, oh my God, I see like some scary insect in my drawing. And that's fine. You know, our mind is getting rid of fears, getting rid of some negative thinking patterns and so forth. That's why you could see anything that might scare you. Okay, so add lines as you go. That's totally fine. And we continue doing it exactly the same way now as we're doing it with the first algorithm. So we need to round. We can add circles on the way. We can even add like here, like I feel adding circle. I don't know why. I just feel like that. And this size, usually I don't draw circles like this, but I just felt the need for this circle because I think the energy is too heavy and I need to be able to dissolve it. And like large circles, usually they have that capacity to dissolve, right? And already, you know, right away, I don't feel like, oh my God, it's not a hammer actually. You know, right away, I see some image of maybe a bird with the beak, right? A bird going towards the sun. I'm not fixating on this right now, right? But you see how I'm communicating with my drone. No, it was not a hummer. It was some sort of bird. I'm just going to make it thicker so you see what I mean. The bird's flying to something, maybe it's a sun or moon, who knows? But already it gave me a metaphor that helps me out to deal with this issue. I'm not going to be fixating, yet it helps me out to change my mind, about this whole situation. And I don't know why I wanted to draw a circle like that big. You may not want to do it. You may want to keep smaller circles, which is totally fine. But sometimes when the problem is really pressing, big circles like that, large circles, they help us out to deal with emotions quicker, with negative emotions. Because again, circle is a holistic figure, and anything that goes inside the circle immediately gets reconciled. You put the triangle in the circle, what do you see? Do you see triangle? Yes, you see, but it's within the circle. So triangle within the circle is different than triangle staying by itself on a piece of paper. Why? Because circle has borders, circular borders for this triangle that really limits triangle's aggressive pattern. It limits it. So if I put triangle here, this triangle, I feel safe with this triangle because the circle, right? That's why if you think about a lot of sacred images come within circles, like flower of life, for example. I don't know if you know about this symbol, but you may check it out after this lesson. Flower of life is a very beautiful symbol of universe creation. And mandalas, right? Mandalas mostly circular, right? Although we can see square also, but circular mandalas, they create a sense of well-being. And I'm going to be giving a separate lesson on mandalas as well in English, because several people ask me, and I was giving in Russian actually, but now I think it's the right time to start teaching things like that in English as well. So, and that's what we're doing, right? We keep adding everything and circling and going back to step number 3 of our algorithm, where we conjoining, where we creating neurographic pattern, where we are getting to the sense of wholenessness. Everything should be whole, nothing should be broken. Our catharsis should be dissolved. And with this, it just gives you a different flavor. It gives you a different flavor of how you can deal with a problem. If it's a complex problem and you really want to kind of like create resolution for this problem. You see, I'm adding lines because I don't see my catharsis been dissolving. So I have to add lines. So this is a complex problem, and complex problem requires complex solution. Add more lines, that's fine. It's totally okay. You have to feel that you are dissolving. If you're not feeling it, add more lines. The quality of work is defined by the quantity of the lines. We talked about this last time. There is number one rule. There is no such thing too many lines. Impossible. It could be just not enough lines, but to say that you have too much lines, in Neurographica, we don't have this belief that you may ever have too many lines. Always not enough. Always. Some people have multi-layered works. Alex Wall, who's also in this group, and he does some works that are multi-layered. Like he does one catharsis, then he wakes up next day and he does another catharsis on top of original one, and he starts all over again. So his work looks like multi-layered. I will ask him to show his work next time, so he can actually give you an idea how complex this drawing can be. And he does very complex drawings. All his work, like mostly abstract work, really has multi-layered kind of approach. And I like it because it gives you a different perspective on how you can do things in Neurographica. And all of us, all instructors, we bring our own flavors in the teaching. And that's how Neurographica method gets also developed, because every teacher, as we grow, we're bringing our own experiences into practice. And then this practice gets incorporated into the teaching. How wonderful it is. We're creating history as we go, right? So you see what I'm doing, right? I can still see my catharsis, which is totally okay. You know, we wanted it to be thick and we wanted it to be visible, but now we need to dissolve everything. And now, even though it is thick, it has a different metaphor associated. I don't feel like going to war anymore. I feel like it's a bird flying, although I'm not fixating, because I know when I'm going to start rotating, and we're going to be experimenting today with changing the steps of the algorithm, where we're going to fixate before we're going to color. But, you know, when we're rotating, we may have totally different, look, this bird now is just totally visible. Look at that. That it's a bird. It's definitely a bird. And the bird flies down here. Maybe it is ready to pick something. Maybe this is a lake and the bird is flying high enough. You see what I mean? Like, even though it's visible, it's already lost its negative energy. Or like that, maybe. Wow, it looks so cool. I love it. So you also look how your drawing is changing, right? We're dissolving things here. We just want to bring our grounded state of mind back. That's the whole idea of this. And we want to change a metaphor. We really want to get to the stage where whatever we did and whatever we made so thick, right? We basically, what have we done? We've done fixation. We were affixing those parts of catharsis, which is step number 6 in the algorithm. We started with this, but now those fixations have totally different meaning. Why? Why does it happen? Because we're rounding, and with rounding, we're connecting all the pieces together. And when we're connecting pieces together, our brain tries to bring our mind and our subconscious mind also, not only our consciousness, to balance. And that's why we start seeing positive images. You see how it works? It's alchemy. It is. It is an alchemical process of transformation. And although we don't know exactly what happens behind this whole practice, we have an idea from scientific researches that neurons respond well on mind-body connection. People who suffer with depressions, some people, you know, suffer with depressions that keep them lying on the bed whole day. They cannot get up. They don't have enough energy. So I know that there are alternative methods to psychotherapy. When people like this, they all of them get together in some sort of retreat, somewhere where they have a forest and a lake and a river, and then they just do mind-body connections. They draw, they knit together, they create some artwork. And you know what? People get healed much faster than using medicine. And it's just amazing that finally they understand that mind-body connection is important, because human beings in a modern society, they all live in their heads, all of them. It's very difficult to find a person who's not really browsing Facebook, or who's not really on computer whole day. Maybe only because they have good excuse. They have kids or something like that. But mostly people right now spend time on their handheld devices, either computers or phones. And what does it create? It creates the situation when people get stuck in their minds. They don't do anything with their hands. And when we don't have mind-body connection, guess what happens? We get locked into our mental world that lacks our body completely. Like, our body gets ignored there. But body has its own wisdom. And that's why when I'm asking you to do neurotrack, I'm saying you guys have to give me neurotrack You have to tell me how your body feels, where you have tensions, how you feel after you complete your rounding, what happens when you complete your drawing, how your body reacts, are you breathing? That's why it's important, because body has its own wisdom. And if we ignore body wisdom, we're ignoring a huge chunk of our impressions. Remember how we talked about impressions, mental impressions, emotional impressions, and also physical. We should not ignore physical, never. Although people have tendency ignoring it. They're like, oh, okay, my arm hurts, so what? My arm hurts when I think about my mother, for example. Some people would tell me, my left arm hurts. And then uh, I'm like, okay, what does it mean to you? I don't know, it just hurts. Well, there is always explanation for everything. You know, we know that in psychology, the left side of the body is a female side, and the right side is a male side. And when she thinks about her mother, and all of a sudden her left arm starts hurting, guess what? It's a reflection of her subconscious mind towards her mother. It's just body doesn't know anyhow else to create this alarming kind of reflexes where it tells you, pay attention, pay attention, pay attention. And then we work through Neurographica on an issue like this, a relationship issue with mother, with husband, with kids, then the pain goes away. And again, people get so surprised, they say, oh my God, my pain is no longer there. I can tell why, because I can tell why they get surprises, because they don't trust themselves. They're saying, no, I don't believe that with Neurographica I can actually fix that problem. But then they start believing. You know, when people put some goals on the drawing, like we did several weeks ago in New Jersey when I was giving class, and then a couple of people got immediate results, almost like in a few days they've got results. They were all amazed. Again, you know, I'm glad that it happens so quick for some people. For some people, it takes longer, but for some people, it may take few days, or for some people, even one day, to make a difference. Okay, so we need to continue rounding, and also right now, that's a new way, you know, the method develops, and what I've seen with the latest videos that Pavel had produced for teachers and for students, what I see him doing, he's saying, why don't we play with the order of this algorithm? That's fine. So we started with catharsis. We did some fixation, right, of certain parts. But now let's find an image. Let's rotate and let's find the image and fixate on the image that probably would give us some understanding of what goes on. And you know, I'm rotating, and look what I'm finding. I even like it better. It looks like I'm sailing somewhere. It's like a sailboat, right? And I feel like I found something very interesting. I'm sailing, and this is probably a moon. I like to think about as a moon. And I'm sailing at night. You see how I'm interpreting it? It's my little boat that I'm trying to fixate on. I'm sailing through the waves. And let's see what else I can see here. You see that? I'm gonna make it black so it's visible to you, right? You don't make it black, you just make it thicker. But for me, it's important that you see what I'm doing. So I'm gonna actually use black marker. I'm looking for that. Just 1 second. Where I'm gonna just show you what I found for myself. And what am I looking when I'm actually fixating? I'm looking for the image that helps me to resolve my problem. And I think sailing through the moon on the small boat is really the way out. It's not a huge ship. That's why I drew this huge circle. Now I understand the meaning. I am teaching you what you need to do in this case where you need to change your position in the situation. And instead of waiting for coloring the entire thing, you basically find yourself that image that helps you out. Find that, fixate, jump to the step number 6 in order to help yourself to find supportive image that help you out to resolve the issue that you have. And now you contemplate, right? I found this image. I am on a sailing boat. The boat is very small, and I'm sailing through the night because I think it's a moon, it's not a sun. And then what am I finding here? What am I finding? Why the boat is so small? Why it's not a huge ship that sails somewhere? You know, I guess because I'm trying to take things with the smaller steps now. I don't jump to huge solutions or conclusions or anything like that. I just want to kind of get in that mode of slow motion, right? The art of small steps. Maybe that's why I'm getting a small boat versus large ship. And why do I sail in the night? Or maybe because at night the moon, the female planet, is visible, and I want to get in touch with my female energy. You see how I started? I saw Canon, I saw some Homer. Everything was like male, iron, right? It's an iron. I'm gonna fight. I'm going to a war. And look, during this process of rounding and finding solutions, I saw that bird, right? The bird is still there, but for some reason, when I turn this way, that's why I'm saying always turn your work. I found this little boat. I like it. This little boat gives me that feeling of slow motions, and looking at the moon and understanding that nothing really matters that much in this life. Everything can be resolved. And I keep rotating, right? I already found my image. I love it. But what if maybe something else talks to me here? I don't know. I don't see anything that would be as much profound as my little boat sailing at night and looking at the moon. It's just, that's how it felt so right for me. I just helped myself to find the way out. And that's my way out. The art of the small steps. And the way I'm going to color it, since it's a boat that's sailing through the night, of course I want to use these colors. I don't want to use anything red or bright or orange. I want to use something that would give me that kind of like feeling of this coolness, right? I just want something that really would give me a feeling that I am cool. I don't have to fight. There is no reason for that. Look at the beauty of the night. Look at the beautiful moon. I'm sailing. That means I'm moving slowly. And that's how, with this thought, I am coloring it. So I've seen that latest approach to this particular algorithm recently. As I said, the method changing and evolving. Like a month ago, it was a little bit different. But now Pavel brought this up, and I'm so happy because I was talking about this. I was talking about positive images in Neurographica, and I had a lot of pushback in the beginning from the entire school. But then I said, look, people, I'm going to really prove to you that positive images, positive metaphors that we find during our work help us out to resolve the issue. And look what happened here. Not only the image that came up, which is very positive, a beautiful, beautiful boat sailing at night in a slow motion, and we see a moon. I'm going to color the moon behind the scenes, right? I already created the whole story associated with this whole thing. You see what I mean? So it's not even coloring here, not only coloring here. It's also the whole story that has been created over this whole work. And I like putting stories together. Sometimes I ask my students, give me a story, right? people see images here and there. We don't fixate the images that we immediately see. Like I could get fixated on the bird, right? But I didn't do it because I thought, let me wait and see. Maybe I can find something deeper, a deeper meaning. Because the bird was not enough for me there. It was not. I felt like I can find something more profound, something that can really help me out. And you should do too. When you're looking for some positive images in Neurographica during your work, don't just grab first image that comes to your mind, or and birds are the first ones that come in usually, birds or fishes or insects. So, and try to color also in a solid way. In the camera, for some reason, I can see like it's iridescent, but in reality, when I look on the paper, it doesn't look like that. So don't think that I'm coloring in a way that it's iridescent. It's really a solid color. It's just, that's how camera sees it. You could use your highlighters in combination with your pencils, but I want to make this moon a little bit bright, so I could feel that moon. I could feel the energy coming from the moon. I could feel that sensation that it gives me. And it's not something that makes me excited. It's more like it makes me feel more like meditative and more like poetic, I would put in this word. I feel more poetic. I really think that I started even singing something inside, like a song came to my mind. And if I see something that is not rounded, what do? I just correct it. It's fine. We are humans. We may are missing sometimes roundings. So we just need to watch for that and try to really fix it. Because we're really trying to round at 100% in these algorithms. All right. I like that. It really comes out well. I wonder how your drawing is going to look like. But, you know, this kind of working with fixation and with a part of the catharsis takes time to master. So what I would suggest, you watch and rewatch this video in order to get a full understanding what I'm doing here, because it's more complex than the first one. It has more components, right? And it's easy to kind of get lost here. But if you remember that, and again, I'm going to put steps as well. If you remember that you really need to find something that can change your mind about situation that you're having. And here, this little quote that I'm emphasizing here is helping me out to do that. What a beautiful positive image I'm having. I'm very excited about it. And you know, with some golden color, it's a golden color, although it may not come across as golden. I just want to kind of like give an accent with some golden kind of color here. So it's a little bit more like feminine kind of feeling that it gives me when I do coloring with this pencil. And this pencil also comes from Prismacolor collection, although it doesn't look like golden, but if I do like this, it gives that sensation of being golden. All right, so I've done that. Now I have to do the rest. And what I want to do is just kind of like, I'm finding something else here. I started to color and I'm finding some figures, but I'm not really sure yet what it could mean for me. But for now, let me just color maybe the waters that my sailboat is floating. I may find lots of things later also. Sometimes people finish their work and then they saying, oh, I found something else on my drawing. That's fine. You know, we call it science. We like really looking at the signs that the universe is trying to give us. You know, sometimes you walk the streets and then you see something unusual, not like something that you used to see. Maybe, what could it be? It could be a bird, a dead bird lying, but then we think about something bad's going to happen to me. or something positive we could see, right? We could see that, I don't want to bring birds that much, but we could see the butterfly landing on your palm. Sometimes it happens all of a sudden, and people are like, oh my God, a butterfly landed on my palm. It's very unusual, and usually it's a very good sign as well. I don't know if any of you are reading Castaneda or any other books like that. He talks a lot about this, about signs and how to read them. It's beautiful. Why? Because the universe is a mystery. And whatever we do with this simple method, the method is so simple. You really don't need to be a psychologist in order to help yourself. And again, I'm calling it psychology, kind of like this whole method, psychological method can actually reduce the amount of time spent at with psychologists or psychotherapists. So you are psychologist to yourself with this method. And it's very simple. That's why people sometimes cannot believe that they can resolve their issues. They're saying it's too simple to believe. But when it happens to them, they're like, oh my God, I can't believe it. I really did it. And, for complex issues, we're using cases. Remember, I told you, you have to do several drawings using the same subject matter. Let's say if it's a pressing or chronic relationship issue, if it's something that you need to really resolve immediately, that it bothers you, do 3, 4, 5, 6 drawings. Do as many as possible to bring yourself to a resolution of the issue. Like I did with my boss. Recently, I had a situation with my boss where we had an issue at work and he was trying to set me up. And I worked for this with Neurographica. I really did. It was just amazing. The outcome was just totally amazing. You see what I'm doing? I'm just coloring it in a way that it looks like a little sailboat goes across the sea in the night sky. And I don't have to color the entire thing. I can just color around my image that I have selected, right? Could do just that. I don't have to. If everything else really is just something on the background that doesn't have much meaning to me, I may not even bother finishing the entire coloring. And again, in Neurographica, we don't require to color the entire drawing. We color to the point where it makes sense to us. I should not leave anything like that hanging, of course. All segments need to be colored. And if I really want to blend my coloring towards the end here, what I could do, I could just, with the light movement, just to go like this, beyond that, so it's barely visible, but yet blended. With highlighters, it's very hard to do, Sancha. So you probably will not have this effect today. But when you're going to start using your pencils, definitely I see that you could start blending colors towards the end of the drawing. We never leave it like that. You see that it's so visible, it goes across several segments. What we need to do this type of blending, where you color it and then you just need to blend it so it becomes invisible at some point. Lighter, lighter, lighter strokes. You see? You see what I'm doing? I don't have this effect is here. Everything is colored with pressure. Here, everything is blended. You see that? I like that so much. You don't have to color the whole segment if you do blending like that. See how beautiful it is? It gives like a feverish kind of feeling. It's like, ah, how nice. And here I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna also blend it. I'm gonna just make it so that it's visible. I'm gonna just do a light pressure until it blended well enough for me to stop coloring. That's what I'm gonna do. And then I can leave it like that. And it's gonna look very nice. I don't need to color a whole thing here. I could if I wanted to, but I don't feel like. I think I found my solution. And I feel so expanded. My chest is expanded. I feel so happy that I found this image that gave me so much comfort. It brought me back to my comfort level, where I'm saying everything is just, it's a dream. It's a sailboat. We're sailing with life over the sea of life. Wow. See, that's how the stories get born. And I love stories, as I said. Sometimes I do my drawing and I'm actually coming up with the story immediately. Um, and it gives me another level of comfort because the story is another way of dealing with situation. You create a story which is totally opposite from the actual issue. Remember when I started, there was a lady who actually created some problems with the space and she didn't show up. And then my students got all upset and mad at me. Uh, but now I don't even want to think about it. It's no longer valid for me. I want to think about sailing part. And maybe it's a sign for me. Maybe I should during the summertime actually sail. I always wanted to, but I never had a chance. And maybe, hopefully, we're going to go to Greece with my husband in September. And I hope then there probably I would do it. See, it already even gave me idea for the next step. It tells me, Margarita, stop this nonsense. Go sail. And that's all you need to be happy. And I'm taking it. I like this. It's beautiful. I really like the solution. You see, I'm laughing. I'm happy. And that's when we're saying, all right, I think I'm done with this whole nonsense. In real life, maybe this lady may reappear and she may apologize and say, look, something happened. I didn't show up, because it's possible that it could happen. Because when we're working on relationships and we're thinking about someone, then these people all of a sudden reappear in our lives. Some people working with their ex-husbands or ex-spouses, all of a sudden they start calling them. They're like, oh my God, I realized I was wrong there and I want to apologize to you. That was not right. And people just start coming back with positive attitudes. It happens. And I've heard so many stories about it, not only from my students, but also from other instructor students where they're working in relationship and things started to get much better. And then you get to the state of forgiveness. Like, you know what? We're all humans. We make mistakes. And we're not alone in that. We also do some crazy stuff in our life. So shouldn't we be more um, understanding and shouldn't we like really accept all the apologies that people who hurt us may bring to our lives? You see, I notice it's not rounded. All I do is just a round. And that's how you become a neuro artist, right? If somebody wondering where all my images are coming from, like I have a image of Shakarizada dancing. I have an image of a mermaid emerging from her fishy body to human body. So all of that is coming from practicing this kind of drawing. So I think I'm good. I'm done with this one. And all I need to do here, remember the field lines? The ones that we started dissolving this whole thing? I'm going to be using them too. And this time around, I don't want to use something very bright because I don't really feel like that. I feel like it has to be more like greenish. And I'm going to just be putting my field lines across the whole drawing in order to charge it with the voltage. I'm just saying, let it be like that. Let it be. Let me sail. Let me go with the moon. Let me go on a trip. Let me see the beauty of this world instead of sitting and thinking about this poor lady who maybe had a very valid reason not to show up, and she just maybe felt kind of, I don't know, maybe she felt guilty and she never called back. Who knows why people do things that they do, right? So I drew some field lines, and I don't have to round everywhere. With the field lines, you don't have to round 100%. Although I have a tendency to round everything 100%, but here I'm not going to do it. And by the rules, you don't have to with the field lines to round 100%. I'm just going to connect them a little bit. And just to have a feeling that everything that I put into this drawing is actually going to happen. Now I know I need to sail. I know that's what I'm going to be doing in Greece. I'm going to be sailing in Greece. And I wanted it for a long time. And now it's a good time to do it. Perfect timing. Appreciate life. Appreciate everything that the nature has to offer. And that's what is important. Have fun. Not to dwell on some crazy stuff that goes on in our lives. Some things we can even change. You know, we have to experience them in order to grow, in order to get transformed. The transformation never happens in the comfort zone. You have to get into discomfort zone in order to get transformed. And that's the best way to get transformed, dealing with people in various situations where you really need to work through this, through your emotionally charged reactions, and get into a perfect state where everything works by itself. All right, so I think I'm done with this one. It looks beautiful. I love it. It gave me positive feeling. You see, it's totally different from what happened in the beginning. And this work we can really count as a complete work. I would say this is a complete work. So that's one. And I'm also going to give you second one. Actually, it's a third one in the classical algorithms for removing inner limitation. That would be the next one. And the last one from the classical sense, called express method. I'm just going to get another piece of paper. Okay. It is a third and the last one from the classical algorithms that Pavel is teaching people. So the first one we learned in the second class. This two we're learning in this class. And I'm going to be giving you my algorithms that I came up with, and also another algorithm that one of our instructors came up with. They're really cool. But today we're learning this too. To conclude the classical algorithms of Neurographica for removing inner limitations. So what is this one about? It is called express method, okay? And this express method is really good when you have, let's say, you have a meeting and your heart is pumping. Tidim, 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 tidim. It's pumping and you're like, I cannot come down. Or you need to give a speech, right? And we know the fear of public speaking is number one fear in the world. People are so afraid to publicly speak that sometimes their throat gets kind of cut. They're like, they can't even say one word. So let's say you have only 10 minutes and you need to come down. Here's what you do. Or like your mother-in-law is supposed to come and your dinner is not ready and you're not dressed up and you're like, oh my God, I don't have enough time. You're out of breath. Instead of going crazy, what you could do, I'm going to use the black one so you could see. You could do your catharsis, right? You see that? You do it. And what you could do here, you could first round it, right? It's possible that you round it. Or if you don't have enough time, you are jumping basically immediately to field lines, to step number 5. So you've done step number 2, you've done your composition, your catharsis. Let's say I'm working on public speaking, right? Okay, I do have a public speaking done in 15 minutes and I feel very anxious and my heart is pumping, right? So I've done that. What I could do, I could round the whole thing first, right? But some people don't have time to round everything. So in this case, I would just go with the field lines and I would just dissolve it. It is called express method. And do you have a question for me? Because I see you unmuted yourself. Or maybe by accident she did. Let me mute all. Oh, Anne has to go. Okay, I understand. That's fine. And you're going to be watching and recording then. So express method is about resolving situation quickly. You don't have to do anything. Just you did your catharsis. Use the express method to basically remove the tension, remove the electricity, remove the electric charge, that you have in regards to the situation that you're having. And you can do anything here. You could use field lines. You could use some lines growing from another lines, just like that, like what I'm doing. It is called express method when you don't have enough time. You know where it's nice to do this express method? When you have a smaller album. When, let's say, you're traveling and you know you're going to have a very nervous meeting where you are very nervous about how things going to go. And you just, you're trying to kind of make it smooth. Remember how I showed you last time when you have a piece of paper, let's say you have a piece of paper and you feel like this, right? You're traveling and your whole condition is like, that bad, right? And you really, what you want to do, you want to round as quick as possible. You don't have to do all the steps of the algorithm to get to this immediate sense that everything is going to work out, immediate sense that things going to be just fine. You want to get to the state as soon as possible, right? For that, we're doing express method. So we're not really fixating on the steps. We're not really following every little thing that the other two have to offer. We just want to get to relaxed state as soon as possible. And that's what it's all about. And again, you could round it. I just missed that step here, but you could round it for sure and then dissolve it with the filled lines and grow your lines from anywhere in the algorithm, anywhere in your drawing to make this happen. I personally use this method a lot. When I'm angry, let's say I went to a meeting, and then at the meeting, I've got people playing some games. In the corporate world, we do have things like that very often. People playing games, and I see it. But I can't tell them, people, stop playing games, because they, at the higher level than me, people that, I just can't, because the corporate world has its own rules that I need to follow. So I get angry sometimes, and then I get out, and I don't want to stay angry because I have to go to lunch, and I don't want to eat my food when I'm angry, right? So in this case, I just want to use this method quickly. And I have an album half of the size, so it happens pretty quick. So when I dissolve it, and when I feel like I'm calm, and I don't have that feeling of anger anymore, then I can start rounding, right? You see, like I'm like, shh, everything now is like ironed. Yes, I do see my catharsis here. I still see it, but I'm gonna iron it in a way that I don't see it anymore. I can even use my neurographic lines to go over it, just like that, right? And then when I'm gonna color it, I'm sure it's gonna disappear. And again, Pavel lately started introducing this fixation before coloring method, and I love it. For me, it works like really amazingly. It works. It helps me out to find good metaphor. It helps me to come up with the story, to help myself to get out from the situation. Because here, really what we want to do to get back to balance. That's the whole idea, as quick as possible. And for that, any positive image that I can see, either tangible or abstract, can help me out. It does. Like, look, what can be more beautiful than the little boat sailing at night and the moon is looking at the boat? It gives me just a wonderful sense, wonderful sensation. And that's what I want, because I don't want to be angry. I want to return my energy back to the present moment. Otherwise, it flows away from me. To where? To nowhere. I'm really, when we're thinking too much about past, when we're getting angry, anger is always about past. Something happened and you reacted, right? It's your reaction to the past event. Or fear, let's say, right? Something happened in your life previously, and now you are scared to repeat because you already had some negative experience somewhere in the past. And now when you, let's say, you're afraid of flying, right? Let's say, and then you hear that somewhere a plane had crashed. You're like, no way I'm going to go and fly because I'm afraid of flying. And now I hear all these horror stories that plane had crashed, right? There's no way I'm going to go and fly now. What is this? It's about past. It happened sometime in your life when you heard about this, and now everything, it gets re-triggered. Then something similar happens. The trigger really goes off the hook and you're alarming. You're saying, no way, no way. Why? Because you are tapping towards your past experiences. So every time we're getting negative emotion, it's because we either had negative experience in the past, or because our parents were telling us, don't talk to strangers, for example. Some people saying, don't talk to strangers. And in a way, it's good because we don't want to, when we're children and we don't know what's good, what's bad, to talk to strangers. For us, it's good maybe not to. But then with time, we need to get out of this habit and maybe start talking to strangers and see how can I help you, right? From communal sense. Are you okay? Do you need any help? Right? Sometimes we see people lying on the street and people think that those are the ones who, either drunk or drug addicts or people, homeless people. But sometimes people are having like some health condition. They faint or something like that. And nobody's asking them. Why? Because we conditioned that we should not. It's interesting, right? When you think about it. And now, when you're working on the highly charged episode, all you want is to return your energy from the past to the present moment. That's what we're working on. And if you have little bubbles, we call them bubbles like that, you could create them somewhere else, right? To draw attention to a different parts of the drawing. And you just color and you just round. You just round it. You round it. And again, in algorithm of removing inner limitations, we try to round as much as possible. 100% is desirable, really. You see, like I have too many lines here. What I could do, I could draw a circle here, but I don't feel like for some reason. But maybe if you see something like this and you want to draw a circle, please do. I don't have a feeling that I have to do it. So I'm not gonna. And that's what we're doing. We continue rounding this whole thing. Again, you see, like I see a picture, I see a sign of the circle just partially. I could finish it, but I don't feel like for some reason. If you don't feel like, don't do it. So then your subconscious mind tells you don't. Maybe it keeps something more interesting for you than just circling. So we have to trust our intuition here and see how we can help ourselves with that. And I trust my intuition because I know universe always gives me signs when something needs to be either transformed or understood or recycled in my life. And I appreciate the universe for that. All right, so we continue with this work. And again, the way Pavel is teaching, you could jump to fixating certain parts, or you could just finish it in the classical way, like we did at the first lesson. The first lesson is the classical way of dealing with this. And for me, I'm using this express method a lot, but the most profound and the most lasting effect I get from the first one, the one that we learned at our second class. Why? Because it's got all the steps, step-by-step process resolving our emotional state. Here it's more like emergency, something that needs to be done quickly. And the previous one is when you have so many components of the problem that you really need to, in your catharsis, to identify certain parts. And then it's going to bring you to a balance, and then you'll see something positive that will take you out from the negative state of mind. Isn't that beautiful? I love it. All right, so let's continue. Now I'm using black marker. I just wanted to use thicker marker for some reason. Sometimes I feel like that, I'm like, maybe I should use a thicker marker, see what happens. And I'm getting some surprises, you know, with that. Girls usually don't like using black markers, and I see men like to do that a lot, and they do like really thick lines with that. And I guess it's just the differences in our energy fields between male and female energy fields that ladies prefer like blue and red and orange, you know, more like female type of colors. Although red can be very male, right? Let's say somebody goes to war, or um, red can be like really the color of really aggressive male energy. We've seen it. But for women, sometimes red is more like attraction, something that they want to bring attention towards themselves. They wear bright red dresses, always looks very nice, fiery, right? And then it becomes feminine as well. So let's pretend everything is rounded, right? So what I could do here again, if I don't feel that I finished dissolving this whole thing, I should continue. I should continue doing it until I finish, right? Until I'm like, oh, okay, I think I'm okay with this. I think I'm done, right? Just add lines. Bella, mostly for you, I'm saying that because I know we had this conversation, and I feel like we need to pay attention. Inside, we should have a feeling, I'm done. I'm done with this. It's already done deal. I was able to dissolve. And if we don't have this sensation, that means we haven't done that. That's what we need to really, really focus on. Am I done or am I not done? And that's a good way of doing it, right? By adding lines, I'm basically dissolving it. And then again, what I could do here, I could rotate and also look for something that talks to me, or I could finish it in a classical way, right? Like we did with the first algorithm. It's just another option. And another good thing, when I'm rotating my image, I also notice all crossings that have not been rounded enough. So I have to really watch for this. That's a good way of watching for this, by rotating and noticing those small details. And see, you see that we see some sticking points here. So what I do, I make this line thicker, so everything is incorporated. I don't see any sticking points. So I could do that, or I could start coloring in the classical way. And I've already shown you how to do it with fixating and coloring fixated object. So here I want to color in the classical way to give you a variety of that. And you can do whatever you wish. It's okay. If you found something that helps you out, then just use that. I'm going to use something that in the classical way of coloring that also going to bring interesting results. I'm pretty sure. Always get something very interesting. Never fails me, this technique. Always gives me something. But guys, in the beginning, so you don't feel like, oh my God, she gets all these insights, I don't have enough insights. In the beginning, I was not getting anything. And I was very frustrated. I saw people, they were getting insights, they were reporting back, and I'm like, I'm not getting anything. Probably I'm not talented enough. I don't know what I'm doing. Maybe I should give it up, you know, in the beginning. But then I understood, like, no, wait. I should not kill myself over this, because I really need to practice. And people were telling me about this, and I could not believe. They're like, you have to practice. I'm like, I'm practicing, but I'm not getting anything out of this practice. And they're like, why are you so impatient? This is not good. And I was impatient. But now I understand that it would be horrible if I would give up in the beginning when I was not getting good images. But I was so much hooked on psychology that I didn't even pay attention much. I'm like, okay, I don't know how to draw. I will never draw well enough, not like all these artists, right? The instructors that were teaching me at that point. I will never draw as good as they do, but psychology of this method helps me out so much. Let me fixate on psychology. So that was my inspirational point. But then I understood I can also draw. It's totally possible, right? But our like critics, our inner critics, sometimes so strong, but they just don't let us breathe for a second and just say like nothing happens by magic. It's all about practice, nothing else, right? And look, I don't even know why I'm coloring like this today. It's just so strange, even for me. It seems a little bit strange that I'm coloring that way, but it feels like this. I want to do it. I want to do it like that. I don't know why. Sometimes I can explain why I select those objects. Why do I color that way or this way? Sometimes my coloring looks like it flows. Sometimes I pick large figures and I color them. Sometimes it's very hard to explain, really. Just so interesting how our psychology works sometimes. Today I feel doing this way, tomorrow probably it's going to be different. And on my way, I'm finding areas that requires rounding, and I round if I missed it. So much fun, let me tell you. I love it. I love this practice. And I love the fact that it's really, it's not only psychology, really what it gives me the sense of fun. Like I feel like candy, you know, the word that came to my mind right now, candy. Why? Because I'm using these bright colors. And, you know, for me, it's like, okay, I love candy for sure. I love when I was a kid, my father used to buy me really interesting candies. They look like a rooster on a stick. They were like a lollipops. In Russia, it used to be very popular. And those roosters, everyone, you know, were waiting for the holiday to get them because they were selling them during the holiday times. And when my father used to buy those roosters on the sticks, for me, that was the biggest happiness in the world to get them. So, and again, look, for your neurotrack, why do I talk about my father, candies, and the roosters? Why? What it has to do with my problem? But when we draw lots of things and our minds get processed, the memories start coming up, not only from the drawing, but from the coloring itself. Look, I started coloring, I immediately recognized the color of the rooster that I used to love and adore. Your brain starts giving you comforting memories to reconcile your issues. Isn't that wonderful? You have to notice that in your neurotrack. And the way I would put it in neurotrack, I would say, while I was coloring, all of a sudden I remembered how my father used to buy me lily pops looking like roosters on the stick. And I don't know why this memory came to my mind. Maybe because I've got into a comfort zone of just getting something nice for myself in order to reconcile the issue that I have, or maybe because my brain wants to comfort me and just gives me all these images of the past, of my childhood, where I felt happy, where I felt whole, where I was waiting for this little surprises to brighten my day. You see, I'm just giving you those examples. I didn't do it on purpose. I'm just saying what I feel, and I'm saying how you should notice things like that. Why all of a sudden thinking about childhood when I'm working on the issue? All our brains, all in our brains. And from scientific point of view, what happened here, our old neurological connection got activated. It's just the memory that was dormant in our mind. It was sitting there, waiting for the moment to get activated. And with this practice, we know because it's Neurographica, right? We are working with our neurons. We're activating old neurological connections. We are actually providing electricity that actually brings up everything what sits in our mind and been dormant for a long time. So we're activating old connections, but we're also creating brand new ones. And that's how our reality is getting built, based on step-by-step process of reigniting the electricity in the old connections and also creating new ones. And then the reality as a mirror starts showing up everything that we want in life. Good relationship, excellent work, You know, we can always resolve things through this type of work. And that's what's amazing about Neurographica. We can totally build a new habit. Some people are smoking. They're like, oh my God, I tried to quit smoking. I still can't. Do drawing, like you're quitting smoking. And seriously, some people report to me that they can't even look at the cigarettes anymore. It works. Maybe not immediately, but definitely at some point it starts working. It's just sometimes if the problem is chronic, right, like chronic pain, for example, or like if something was building up in your belief system for a long time, now you cannot just resolve it with one drawing. You have to do case. You have to do series of drawings in order to correct it, in order to create brand new connection in your mind. And that is the technology behind this whole idea of Neurographica. That mind and body connection, working through your hand, working through your visual impressions. When you're coloring, the color always brings a memory. Like when I see something pink, I think about that rooster, right? Isn't that something? It's totally something. And sometimes we don't notice because things are so simple. You're saying, oh, I just thought about it because I don't know, maybe because my memory came up, but why? We never think why. Or we go to a restaurant and it smells so nice, and immediately we have memories of the childhood. Oh, I remember how my mother used to cook it, right? Like Italian families, when some Italian families, they go to a restaurant and they order some good pasta with nice sauce. And what people saying, oh, my mother used to cook that. And now when I smell it, it brings all the memories of my mom. Isn't that beautiful? But here's the same thing, right? Why this memory would come up? Because certain neurological connections get activated, and it brings up good memories. Same here. We're working on something. We want to get to the balanced state of mind, and we're getting similar effect. You know, it all looks like a little pops to me right now. I love it. I love it. It's just, you know, I really want to smile. It makes me smile so much. I don't know why I'm laughing. You see that? It's crazy. I'm just laughing because this color is like my childhood lillipups that I loved and adore. It's like sailing in the night. Right there, I was not laughing that much because it's more like romantic and meditating. Here, it's more like, oh my gosh, it's just so much happiness in the world. It's just so much. Why am I fixating on some crazy ideas and some negative patterns that I have? I know I have my own that I work through and still working through. We're all humans. Something bad comes out and then we need to reconcile again and again and again. That's life. It's life. And we're not alone in this world. We're not alone in a world of problems. Everyone has some sort of issue. And the only way to reflect to these issues is just to get connected. Get connected to the entire universe. And through this practice, we definitely do that. I need to sharpen a little bit. You know, I'm using this sharpener. I killed 2 Panasonic electric sharpeners. Would you believe that? I have sharpened so many times. I bought the new one, I killed it. Then I bought another one, I killed it. Then I said, you know what? Let me try mechanical ones, because those electronic ones, they cannot really take my pressure, I guess, when I try to sharpen. So funny. All right. I guess this time around, I just wanted something really bright, something really happy to happen. And I love it. Also, I wanted to balance the black marker, right? Sometimes when you use black marker, it brings some sensation of heaviness, something that needs to be kind of like lightened up. And what I'm using to lighten things up, I'm using sometimes, let me show you, Sharpie. Sharpie is, it's not a marker, it's more like, it is a marker, but it is oil-based. And really, what you could do, you could go over your black lines with that. But be careful with this Michael's is selling it, and Amazon is selling it. So look for Sharpie, white or blank, it says here, oil-based marker. So this is something that you could use. Sometimes, you know, women specifically don't like heavy black colors. So if you feel like you don't want to do it, you could do it. There is another way of lightening things up. There's markers called uniball markers, and they are white. They also have them in gold and silver. The way it works, you know, I don't know if it's going to be visible, but if I go like this, you see it. You see that line? It can really add some lightness, to make it lighter, right? The black line, it adds some lightness to heavy lines. You see, like it makes them more transparent, kind of. I'm gonna put these markers, again, I didn't want to give you right away. I want to show you first what you can do with them. You see that? So it's not as heavy as it was in the beginning. You see this? But then you have to round again. Don't forget that, because otherwise this crossing is going to create a mess. So you could use that, and your drawing is going to look more attractive, more elegant if you do. So I'm going to be taking picture of those markers and putting them to the group, sharing them. And some people don't study within this group. They have kind of like outside of it. I'm sending them videos over Messenger. So I'm going to be sending you too those markers. So if you would like to try them, I know in my Russian group, people like using it because they give like some sort of like a layered impression. So you have a drawing that on top of this, you're using this white markers that help out to lighten up the whole drawing. And this one, I'm going to be definitely, for this one, I'm going to be using it. Too many colors, too many solids that I really want to kind of make lighter. And that's the way to do it. Or you could use gold, you know, same markers, or pens, I should say. They're more like a pens. They come as in golden color and the silver and the white. So depending on what you'd like to do, you could use them in different color combinations. So maybe you want to combine gold and silver, you want to combine, let's say, white and gold. That's fine, totally okay. Could do that. All right. So, and then while I'm doing it and I'm speaking, right, and you guys just concentrating on your drawing, please notice what goes on, how your body feels. Are you breathing? Are you feeling anything in your body? What thoughts are coming through your head? What mental images maybe? Sometimes, you know, you could say, oh, I started to color. And then those colors brought me the image of a bird flying over the sea, right? Here I could say that those are wings, here's the tail, here's the body of the bird. Yeah, I see that bird. I see it, but I don't want to fixate on this. This bird doesn't do anything with me. I don't have any mental or physical or emotional connection toward this bird. But for somebody who would look at this, they would say, oh, what a beautiful bird. And I would say, what bird? And then they say, don't you see it? And I would say, no. And then they would show me this bird. And I would say, oh, yeah, I do see it. But when you don't have emotional connection with the image, it is meaningless to you. Then you don't fixate it. Only fixate images that really talks to you. That makes sense. And don't be afraid to put color, one color on top of another color. But then you have to blend them. Don't make it so visible that, you see, like I'm blending yellow with pink here. The pink becomes bright yellow when I blend. And then I just blend at the end. You see that? It looks kind of blended. And that's what you should do too. Experiment. Don't be scared. Don't be scared experimenting by layering colors, specifically when you're going to be using pencils, right? I know, Sancho, you have that you need to use those markers, but when you're home, get yourself nice pencils and Just experiment with that. You'll see. It's going to be a totally different feeling. Some people like combining watercolor pencils with regular pencils. So what they do, they buy watercolor pencils and they get a very tiny brush, and then they just water a little bit inside. Like they would color, right, with the watercolor pencil. Then they would have this brush and they put it in the water and just blend inside. But be careful with the markers because it can wash out your borders of your segment. So that you need to watch out with the watercolor pencils or even watercolors, you know. But you could definitely try not to be scared, even if you spoil one. So what? Maybe you're going to become a neuro artist. Maybe you're going to use this method for creating artistic work. You know, like I do. We're gonna have a celebration of my sister company, not my sister, but the sister company, Antinanka Earth Art School. We're celebrating the school on February 20th, and I'm gonna be putting one of my artwork for auction. Isn't that fantastic? I could never even dream about it in the past, but now I'm even auctioning my artwork. I will definitely take a picture of that and show you guys what it was. But I want too much for this because I feel so I feel sad separating from this, and it means so much to me that I don't want to just auction for nothing. I really feel like it's my baby, and I have to really, if I'm gonna auction it, then I'm gonna auction it well, for the good price. All right, so finishing coloring and then putting the filled lines across. What do I want to use here? I want to use orange. I want to use orange. You could use thicker markers for that, but I'm going to use this. You know, I'm so used to Paper Mate now that I really like it. I think it makes so much sense using this. They cheap, they have a good size point, and everything comes out so well with them. So that's what I switched to. Before I was buying expensive stuff because I wanted everything to look expensive. I wanted my artwork to stand out. But now I'm like, no. For this specific algorithms, I don't need expensive. I'm working mostly on my psychological, the balancing my psychological state of mind than anything else. Yes, I love the colors. This is an artwork basically, but for me, it's very important to attend psychology. Very important. I want to get balance. I don't want to keep my energy in the past because it's a waste of my time, waste of my life to keep the energy of frustration and anger in the past. And you could create little circles with that. You see what I've done here? I created a little circle. It looks cute. I like that. You could do too. Try it. And now I don't have to round field lines, if you remember. I've charged my drawings with them, with this electrical power. And now I just need a little bit rounded in places. You see here, I could just draw a circle, just like that, and color. You see how cute? Those little bubbles always bring the whole drawing, like it really, they ignite this whole drawing with some energy, bubbling energy. Specifically when I'm thinking about candies, right? Because this whole drawing, for some reason, gives me the sensation of sweetness. I want those little bubbles to be present in my drawing because they're so cute, they're so nice. And although I'm not going to round everything, I guess when I'm going to be finishing this work, I'm going to actually try to round as much as I can here. All right, so now we completed it. And now what I could do again, I could rotate and see if anything really flirts with me. Remember, flirting? Arne Mindel's term for something that catches our attention. So I'm rotating slowly, trying to find the wave maybe. I'm trying to find something that may attract me. I don't see anything at this point. And you should know the fixation is not mandatory. part of the algorithm. The mandatory parts are only the first three ones, from us choosing the subject matter, then doing your catharsis, and then rounding this whole catharsis. Classical, three ones are mandatory. But in my world, I'm saying, why don't you make 4 steps mandatory, where you need to dissolve your catharsis? And then you really can go and take a break and do your coloring later, maybe next day or anything. And sometimes, you know what happens? We are looking at our drawing and we don't see anything. Then time passes by, we take it back, like I'm looking at my old drawing, and then you could find something that really speaks to you. Right now, I don't see anything, but I'm sure with time, I will get a hint around something that I will find, okay? Again, what I want to illustrate to you, that fixation is not mandatory. You don't have to, if you don't see anything at the moment. Leave it. Leave it, let it stay somewhere in your album or on your folder, and then later you can take a look at this and say, oh my God, when I was doing this drawing, I don't even remember what I was thinking about at this point, but now I can see something that really, really flirts with me, and I want to fixate it. And then you fixate it, then you make it thicker, okay? So that concludes our lesson for today. We went through 2 other algorithms of removing inner limitations. I have shown you the one that includes the complex issues with several parties involved, or some complex situation where you need to actually work with components of the problem. And also we worked with express method, and look how quickly we did it, like maybe, I don't know, less than 30 minutes, I think. Really, it's just, and if you're going to be using half of this size, it would probably take you 15 minutes to complete. See how beautiful it is? Like, quickly, nice and sweet, but it doesn't replace the first one. It doesn't. Why? Because the first one will give you long-lasting changes. This one is just a quick fix. It will help you too, but not as much as the first one that we learned at the previous lesson, our second lesson, okay? That's how we do things. And now I'm going to return back to you so we could talk a little bit, and I'm going to answer your questions. Let me just switch off my camera for now. All right, we are back from our journey. Sometimes it even feels like I'm flying somewhere in the sky and we're all flying on the same plane. And now we landed. And you need to share our sensations. So guys, please speak to me and let me know what, maybe any feedback or questions, anything you want to ask me, please.
What's the actual difference between the first algorithm and this one?
So with the first one, Adela, it's more complex if you think, right? The first one requires you to follow strict rules of the algorithm, where you have to first your subject matter, when you move around, then you do your catharsis, then you round. You really have to follow strict rules. It has a more long-lasting effect than this one. The last one that I've shown, it's more like emergency. Usually it is done on a small piece of paper. I've done
on sorry, I meant the one that's from class 2.
Yes, that's what I'm talking about. The class 2 had the classical algorithm of removing inner limitations, right? It had that. But the difference between this one and the classical one is that this one is done usually in an emergency state of mind, where you need to come down quickly. Usually it's done on the half of the paper, like that. You should have like a small album where you could just throw it and try to smooth it out, try to iron your emotions quickly, that you get rounded and get back to normal, right? The other one has a larger effect on you. The one that we learned in the second class, actually the one that will give you long-lasting effect. And for the long one, we're doing case, right? Here you don't do case. Let's say you're nervous about your mother-in-law coming, right? For example, you're nervous and you know, oh my God, it's only 30 minutes left. Then you just do quickly, you iron it and you're like, oh God, now I can breathe. It's like emergency help, right?
Got it.
It's like you're taking Tylenol for the headache, right? Where with the first one, when we learned at the second lesson, that's something that provides you long-lasting effect for issues, maybe chronic issues, maybe relationship issues that have been going on for a while. There you can do a case, you can do several drawings. It's just much, much deeper and more profound than this one, for example. That's the difference.
Is it usual, like, is it sometimes find that the same imagery is coming up when you're
the images? Well,
yeah,
it
like,
really depends, you know.
Like, I don't want it to, but it's there again.
You
Seems.
no, you're right. Yeah. You don't want to. You're not specifically inducing any images. You don't do it.
No.
If they jump to you, then you work with them. Sometimes they just jump.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, and then you say, oh, I know what it means to me. But in Neurographica, we're not jumping on any images. We're not doing it. It is an abstract art, right? And you could fixate on triangle, and that could mean something to you. Or you could fixate on the shape. Let's say, here's the drawing. You could just get fixated on this part. That's really nothing but geometrical figures, right? But what we're saying in Neurographica, everyone is different. Somebody has a very strong visual channel, like myself. I produce images out of nothing. I can walk the street and see images everywhere. Somebody perceive this work kinesthetically, where they get sensations. They could start feeling, they could start smell something, smell of coffee, for example, and that means something to them. Or they could start feeling like sensation in arms, like they have some tingling, right? It's a more kinesthetic way of expressing, right? Yeah, and some people don't feel anything and don't see anything. Doesn't mean nothing happens? No, the work is still done. No matter how we approach to this work. Some people like work with images, it means something to them. Some people don't. It is an abstract way of dealing with this. If we found something that helps us out, then we work with the image. But we're not specifically fishing for this. We're not sitting and saying, oh, I see the butterfly, now let me wings more visible so my butterfly can fly. But then my question to you would be, what does it mean to you? And some people saying, I don't feel comfortable with abstract work because it doesn't give meaning to me. I just want to cling to the tangible object. And then I feel more comfortable. You know why? Because brain doesn't like abstract. For the brain to register abstract, brain gets confused. Brain is saying, I don't know what it's all about. It doesn't make sense to me. That's why we start seeing some birds and we start seeing like butterflies and insects and who knows what else we see. Right? But we don't do it unless we're totally sure that this image brings something to us. Like a sailboat. Like when I fixated on the sailboat here, I knew that this image will totally resolve this whole situation. But here, I didn't want to fixate on anything. Nothing is fixated. Totally, I'm showing you different ways of dealing with emotional states that require balance. Sometimes you see something that matters to you and you want to put emphasis, sometimes you don't. Or you may never work with images, or you may always work with them. You see what I mean? It gives that level of flexibility where you could play, mix and match, right? And see what works the best for you.
Perfect, yeah. It's
That's why I love it. It's so awesome.
Yeah.
Anything else?
No, I saw a bird, a big bird, but I think it does mean something for me.
Okay. So
So.
can you tell us, or is just something very private?
No, it's okay. My catharsis was about my new work situation.
Mm-hmm.
And for the past 2-3 days, I'm trying to think how I'm gonna make it work because there's like a new person in the picture.
Mm-hmm.
So, but it's like, although like I'm welcoming her presence, but she complicates the situation.
She complicates things. Uh-huh. Okay.
Right. So like for the past 2 days, I keep on thinking how I'm gonna get it, resolved.
Mm-hmm.
So, and now like since this bird came out, I'm thinking like, well, you know what, maybe she is away, like after, this learning curve for the adjustment period, it'll be me soaring. So.
Wow. That's awesome. That's exactly the example where something jumps out and it gives us positive message that helps us out to get out of the situation and transform it. That's a wonderful example.
And I did see the top part first, but I didn't know how to, like find the bottom of it. I had no idea. So I just started coloring, kind of like the bottom, because I thought it was like I saw it this way. I didn't see the other half.
Yeah.
Once I started coloring, this side popped up. And I know what to do with this circle. And when I first started drawing lines, like this looked weird to me. Remember like in the initial with my tree, I had this kind of like horns. So those were initially horns, and then I'm like, what? Actually, this is a tail.
That's so cute.
That's awesome.
That's wonderful. If it helps you, it gives you some hints, right? Like with my sailboat, I just suddenly thought about that. That's the way to go. Slowly, meditative, right? Using my female energy, because if you remember, I had iron in the beginning, hammering iron.
Right.
And here it's totally opposite. And it gave me a feeling that I worked through this totally. So in this case, I would say yes. If it has a meaning, why not to work with this? Image therapy is based on this as well, right? But some people don't think in these terms at all. They're saying, I don't see any images. I don't want any images. I want abstract. And through abstract work, they express themselves sometimes even more than people who express themselves with images.
Right.
It really depends on the channels of perception that we're using. And we are designed, I don't know if you heard about human design, but some people have, as I said, visual channel, very strong, some kinesthetic, some other channels. We're using everything what we are equipped with in order to work through our emotional disbalances.
Right.
Because this is all, this whole course about working with emotional disbalance. And then we're getting to advanced stages when we're doing neuromandalas, when we're doing neuro trees, when we're doing some other stuff that is really, really cool and powerful. But first, we need to know how to balance our reactions and understand that every reaction will live, as long as we had a reaction, this is something that happened in the past. And what happens and triggers towards the future events. The energy is stuck there. The energy is not flowing through this neuroconnections. It's stuck. And now, okay, that plane got crushed. I'm not flying. The future is already blocked for you. If we would release this, you would just fly with pleasure, not even thinking about it. We want to return our energy from the past to the present moment, and from the present moment, go with the future with that. That's the idea.
Very nice.
All right, dears, I'm waiting for your work.
Okay.
Thank you as always, and please post your work. I really expect good neurotracks. I love Kevin's. Please read how he does it. Really beautiful, all the level of details and bodily feelings and emotional. I just love it. And it gives me a good sense how he's progressing. And I would advise everyone to do something similar. I know it's time consuming, but we have to be patient, and we want to really get to the point where we're all well-rounded and learn a lot out of this course. Let's concentrate on NeuroTrack as well.
I will try. The thing is, like, I write all day, so by end of the
I
day.
know that. Belly's a lawyer, so she writes a lot. Thank
Oh,
you.
I can't even help, my kids with homework.
Yeah, I know. But let's try at least to do our best, right? All right. You guys have a good night.
okay.
Thank
And I'll
you.
see you next time.
Margarita. Okay.
Sure.
Sounds
Thank
good.
you. Bye now.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.